Okay, I think we're live now. And hello, everyone. Welcome to another weekly travel update. And if you're here, leave a comment. I know it takes around 20 seconds for us to get the comment, but don't hesitate to ask your questions and tell us what you think. We're here to talk to you. All right, so a quick reminder, we meet here every Thursday at 5 p.m. GMT, and we talk with travel industry experts, and we discuss how to get through the challenging times. And today is not an exception, of course. So if you have any questions and want to share your stories, once again, please write it in the comments. We'll be happy to discuss it too. My name is Olga Gachkova, and welcome everyone. Hello from Moscow. I'm marketing manager at Travelpayouts, and if you don't know what Travelpayouts is, we're a travel affiliate network that helps travel content creators to monetize their content. So basically what I mean, if you are a travel blogger, oh, hi there, hi, Elizaveta. If you're a travel blogger and if you have a travel website where you share your tips on how to travel or how to pack, and even if you like creating posts about your recent trips anywhere on your social media, you can actually monetize it. Oh, hello, Donna. Hello, Viral. Nice to see you all here. So once again, it's a very simple way to earn on your travel content. You don't have to register any large company. You can just earn on the travel content on your trips, on the way you share with people. And so if you're not working with us yet, I strongly suggest you checking out the link that I'm going to publish here. It's travelpayouts.com, quite easy. And once again, if you have any questions, just let us know in the comments. Okay, I guess the formal introduction is over and we're ready to start, right? Yeah, so today I'm going to talk with Dana Lattouf. Yeah, Dana Lattouf, once again, just remember the name, guys. She's the founder of the company called Tickitto, and she's a recent Google for Startups resident. Wow, that sounds impressive. And I was so happy when the company reached out and decided that they want to join our weekly travel update. So Dana, thank you so much for joining us today. And once again, she knows everything about experiences. That's what she was going to tell you today. And first of all, the question is, Dana, could you please tell us a little bit more about yourself and about Tickitto?
Of course. Firstly, I have to say it's such a pleasure to be on here with you guys and obviously the community on Facebook. It's really good to see how everyone is coming together in a very difficult time. I mean, after all, we have each other. A bit about myself. I mean, you nicely kind of introduced me there, so I'm super flattered. But founder and CEO of Tickitto, as you guys can tell from the name of the company, obviously it has something to do with tickets. Tickets for theater, music, arts, sports matches, concerts. You know, the tickets are actually sometimes overlooked during the trip because you have so much to worry about, such as the planes or the hotel that you go to and your safety and how many Ubers you can get. But they're actually essential to our enjoyment. We believe that the reason we actually pack our bags and go on a new adventure or to a new city is because of those events and activities. But at Tickitto, we're on a mission to make those tickets more accessible and more open. And by accessible, we mean we want to introduce modern infrastructure and allow companies like yourself potentially to have the ability to access more content. And so that means that the modern traveler today can not only restrict themselves to the classic types of activities that we see, such as the museums or the tours or the cooking classes, but more so, a baseball match when you're in the US, or a music festival in Hyde Park if you're in London. And so only when we start to really unlock and open different types of tickets and activities can we really serve the modern consumer and build more connected trips. And this is just, a brief summary about what Tickitto does.
That sounds awesome. I mean, that service does stand out because it unites so many activities as one simple tool. Especially it's important for those people who prefer to give larger options for their audiences to choose from. And I don't know whether you have other services like that as competitors, because as far as I know, just different providers provide certain tickets to certain activities, and you got everything under one umbrella, which is awesome. But Like, how did you come up with that idea? Like a small tip for someone who wants to found a startup.
Of course. So, firstly, I think what you mentioned is super interesting. What we see in this space or in this industry is people very much focus on cultural activities, which makes sense, of course, because when you're going to a new city, the museums and the tours are part of the charm. But we're seeing different types of travelers coming up. I myself consider myself to be a young, modern, independent traveler looking for more things than just the museums and the tours. At night, I would very much love to go to a concert or potentially in the evening watching a baseball match or a football match. And the idea for starting this company came because of a personal frustration, because of the way I identify as a traveler. When my family and I were traveling 3 years ago to Istanbul, we wanted to do different types of activities. And specifically, we were super keen to watch a football match to get an understanding of how fans in Turkey support their favorite team. But it was super frustrating for us to get access to tickets, which is again, by access to tickets, I mean, finding the right ticket for the event and then making sure you're buying an authentic ticket for the right price, not a black market or a fake ticket. We ended up wasting almost collectively 20 hours on our 72-hour trip, just trying to find activities. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're in a city for 3 days, 4 days maximum. You should be making the most of it, not wasting your time trying to look for stuff. And I know, of course, this only applies to different types of travelers because some people would like to have everything super planned in advance. And so they spend a lot of time preparing for their trips. But we mustn't forget that there are more spontaneous last minute travelers like myself, for example. So the idea came from actually solving that personal frustration of mine. And as I started to dig a bit more deep, of course, the research element is super important when you're trying to build a startup. You want to identify what exists, what the actual problem, and why we were facing that challenge. And so we realized that instead of just worrying about the problem and continuously complaining about it on Twitter, let's just build it. Let's fix the industry and make it an easier fix for everyone. The travel bloggers, companies like yourself, entirely, the whole industry, and then later on for us as travelers.
That sounds awesome. And especially like the point when you said that very often such bookings, experiences, they are very spontaneous. And I can relate because, not just based on my experience, but based on Travelpayouts experience. Several months ago, I talked to our statistics department team and asked about the depth of booking based on different activities, different niches of the whole travel process, from buying a ticket to, buying a medical insurance, choosing the hotel. And when you book a ticket, it can, go up to 1 or 2 months before the trip. And when you start looking for experiences during your trip, it takes around 6-7 days before the start. And it's like the average. So very often it happens, on the road when you're already traveling and you want something very useful and everything, located in one place. And that's why it's such an awesome idea. I really love it. And it's so great that you started it. Someone should have started it already. And I have a question to everyone listening to us. Do you guys travel a lot? And when you travel, what kind of activities do you prefer to book online? Activities, experiences, tours, museums, maybe excursions, sport games. What do you like to book online? Let us know. And we have a couple of questions here, I guess. We can switch to the chat for a second, and sure. I'm going to read them. Okay, I see so many hellos from everywhere in the world. That sounds awesome. So the question is, are we able to promote Tickitto AI? Yes, you are. At this moment, Tickitto is not part of Travelpayouts, but possibly we can discuss it as well. And if you're looking for additional information, you can either ask Dana, or you can go to tickitto.com, right?
Yes, so, that's correct.
Yep, I will just write this link in the comments. Tickitto. travelpayouts.com here. And you can look for instructions there. Okay. And we have a question from Dimitri. Hi, everyone. Do you guys see the traffic is getting back right now? What I see on my website is the tourism transfers are suddenly working, and I see first sales. The disclaimer is yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I was going to ask that question a little bit later, so if we can postpone the details, okay, for a second. So outdoors, okay, we started to get answers. So you guys prefer to book outdoors and sightseeing activities and excursions and skiing and private tours and museums when needed. Oh, many of them. I believe you will be very interested to check Tickitto, right?
Exactly.
Okay. All right, so I think it's time to talk about the traffic and the situation and so-called C word, as you referred to. And I love it so much because we are so tired of quarantine and COVID and lockdown.
Coronavirus.
Coronavirus. Oh my God, all these words started from C. We need to ban it. So, okay, but I'm going to read my question. And so since Tickitto has been affected by the quarantine as much as the rest of the travel industry players, but I believe that, yes, we're getting more used to the situation, first of all. And also some countries have already started opening their borders, or they started to promote domestic tourism where it's safe now. And for instance, we at Travelpayouts are referring to the question in the chat. We at Travelpayouts have already started to witness decent growth in the number of bookings. Like overall, cannot say specifically which niche started to grow faster than others, but overall it's growing. And the question to Tickitto, have you seen any dynamic, both positive or negative, since the beginning of March, approximately?
Of course. I think I'm keen to stick to positive news and very recent news because, we've been closely watching the news and what's been happening closely over the past period. But recent data from Skyscanner, which was actually published just this morning, they're studying the sentiment of travelers and how they're feeling. And only this week were they able to detect that anxiety and the risk perception of travelers is actually falling massively across all regions of the world. And so people are now more opening up to, getting on a plane might be challenging. You need to put the protective masks and then the sanitization material continuously will need to be with you. But that's the first and the most important starting point of when we potentially would look to see a recovery. It's more important to consider that, it's not whether people will be able to afford it, whether there's more of a financial crisis or not, because that's also very different across different regions. It's more the travel sentiment. And it's always a very good sign when consumer confidence or traveler confidence in this case is being restored. Obviously and undoubtedly, that the whole pandemic has put the travel sector into what we call a freeze. But we've taken advantage of this freeze because we really wanted to go deep into our technology and make sure we build something that's stable and secure for when we expect people to go back to travel the way they used to. We also took advantage of this time because we think it's very important for us to build strong relationships with our partners. Everyone in this travel industry, has been hit very hardly, and so the least we can do is give a supporting hand back to people who need help. What we've also seen is that the pandemic has played a role cultivating the consumer's preference for online and online purchasing. It's very shocking because everyone is obviously accustomed to online, but when we look at the data, we see that the penetration for online travel across the world isn't as people would expect, specifically for tours and activities and experiences. It's the third largest growing sector of travel. In fact, it's growing at a rate that's much higher than hotel bookings and flight bookings. And it's worth $159 billion annually. $159 billion is the amount of money, that's paid by travelers globally on just events and activities.
Oh, that's a great market.
Yeah, but this has very much limited online penetration. according to Focusrite as well, only 2 out of 5 tour operators around the world offer online bookings, which isn't, it's not massive. If we're talking about 2 out of 5, it's a very low number. And when we look at the data as well, they tell you that 80% of the bookings are happening offline. So 20% of the entire market only happens online, which is very interesting because now as people are becoming more comfortable with buying their food online, they're buying, everything, every necessity online, we will see a massive push towards online sales. Of course, I know I'm speaking to a community of online travel affiliates and everyone's used to buying stuff online. But what we're going to be seeing is a massive uplift for the entire industry. So that's good news to everyone. What we're also seeing is, of course, as I can see from the comments, is domestic travel is picking up massively,
Yes.
which is great news, of course, because it's the first route for us to restart. It's low risk, it's cheaper, and also relatively can be done right now without worrying about other restrictions and figuring out other restrictions. And so these are very much the trends we're seeing. Of course, we can also start to see some green zones are picking up and some travel bubbles or travel bridges being introduced, which is quite interesting. I think there's a lot more geopolitics coming into place. But for now, I think we can just rely on the fact that domestic travel is very much the route to recovery.
Well, that's a very good point. And we can just say the same, that domestic is going to grow first. And then another question, is what is your main geographies? Because we got several questions about where do you actually work and operate, or where you have the most of activities which can be purchased. So what are your biggest markets and plans?
So firstly, I have to say I'm dialing into this live session from the beautiful city of Bath. I'm sure everyone in the travel community is familiar. It's a small countryside city in the UK. Beautiful history, beautiful landmark. Our company is based in the UK. I'm just kind of self-isolating in the countryside because I thought it would be refreshing, which means naturally that our supply to events and activities would be very much firstly and most importantly based in the country where we operate from. So that's UK. And then moving on regionally, we have very good coverage across the European region. Our next steps obviously includes targeting the US market. So that's anything from the festivals, my personal favorite, which I have never been, it's still on my bucket list, is Coachella Music Festival. And then, all the Yankees and the baseball matches. So that's the next step. But for the moment, it's very much focused on the EMEA market, Europe and the UK specifically.
All right, sounds good. And oh my God, we have so many questions today. So what goes next is I would like to purchase themes for Travelpayouts purposes. Do you have any recommendation? I think we're going to answer that question a little bit later in the comments because we have a really limited time for today. So let's first discuss the experiences and what else? What is the difference between Tickitto and Viator, or maybe any other ticket provider?
Exactly. I think the way we're focusing our efforts is not only just specifically on the cultural activities and events. We're looking for breadth of supply, and that is across concerts. So something like, Lady Gaga being promoted on our platform, tickets to those concerts, or for example, again, I mentioned Coachella Music Festival, boxing matches. We believe that these are very important for travelers today because you might not necessarily be traveling to that specific event, but you might have heard of it and you wanted to go to that event. We see that current platforms such as Viator, and then, obviously there's Klook and there's Tickets and Get Your Guide. They're doing an amazing job because they obviously have massive supply, but their supply is very much focused on cultural activities. As you mentioned, Olga, earlier on the stream, our core focus is bringing in the extra genres that are usually potentially more appealing to the younger or more modern independent travelers.
Okay, sounds clear. All right, I'm going to switch to my questions because you have some of them on the list, and then we will go back to the chat again, if it sounds okay.
Of course.
So, but please leave your questions there. Anyways, after the live session, we will, see all your questions and try to reply to all of them. All right. So since we started talking about other providers of tours and activities, so Travelpayouts we have Get Your Guide and Viator, which has been mentioned already, Klook, Amusement, and Voyaging, and Ticket Network, and many others. And they found a solution, to survive during the quarantine. And it was pretty innovative, which is online tours, online concerts, online experiences, and so on. And I saw that question in the chat as well. So do you think that online experiences are here to stay? What's your opinion?
Of course. So I have to say we're super passionate about physical events, of course, because it's what we do. It's what we do for a living. We've written a lot about this topic, as Nicholas from the team pointed out in the chat, on our blog. So that's blog.tickitto.com, specifically about virtual events and why we think it's an interesting time to look at them. But I mean, in the immediate current situation we are in, these products, the virtual events and experiences, are important because they are basically a supplement to the offline products. There's no alternative at the moment. Right now, they're core for our enjoyment. Otherwise, we would be, sitting at home, just kind of tuning in for Netflix, and the content there is obviously limited. So people are looking for different sources or different avenues of entertainment. And it sounds pretty cool that you potentially can explore a museum that's 10,000 miles away from your home on the internet, or potentially tuning into to Bocelli live from live from Milan on YouTube. Mm-hmm. But we think, that the technology at the moment, or technology today, is not sufficient to transmit the feelings that we get out of a proper experience. Recently, in Germany, one of the football matches were hosted on Zoom. And once we had the chance to read over and study, we understood that the feedback from the attendees was that it was quite boring and stale. They felt like they were watching a match on a training day. There wasn't any cheer going around. They couldn't enjoy being, squished together in a stadium. And in those intervals, that feeling of grabbing snacks and drinks and then just being all together chanting and cheering for your favorite team. These are all, what makes an experience, not just actually attending the experience itself. It's those little moments that make a huge difference. And at the moment, technology cannot support those. In other instances, when we look at the Bocelli concert, when Bocelli performs, he's waiting for a standing ovation. He's waiting for claps. He's waiting for gasps. He's waiting for tears from people. And if the performer cannot see the reaction on the audience, it makes the performer kind of feel a bit weird, in the sense that, he's not entirely sure, or she's not entirely sure if the audience are getting it the way it's intended. So we're seeing that technology is filtering out the most important elements of an actual experience. Now, I know I'm talking about the music and the football, but when we talk about, a cooking class, it's the smell, it's the questions that you can directly ask, it's, the touching of the surroundings around you. Or similarly in the museum, it's just entirely the other senses that come into play, which technology at the moment cannot bring about. However, don't get me wrong, I think, for the short term, they might be just sufficient to kind of entertain the audiences and keep them engaged, but not necessarily a long-term kind of a solution.
Yes, but well, as for me, these two activities are really different. I mean, anything online and anything offline are just completely different experiences, since, as you've just said, physical presence and the ability to use all of your senses, not just, watch and listen, is, probably the biggest part of any experience. And honestly, I've visited a couple of online tours recently. These were just short excursions, sort of guided tours. But there was always some technical difficulty during the whole presentation. And I would say that yes, it does have some drawbacks, but in fact, in this like giant world of the global internet with so much knowledge, sometimes it's awesome to have a guide who navigates you through something. Maybe it's a museum, maybe it's a destination, or it might give you a better overlook before you plan to go somewhere. So you take a tour and see online with the guide what the Caribbean islands, are, and then you start planning your trip. So probably it can somehow change over the time, and we can witness it right now, which is awesome, I think. And we can switch back.
Exactly. I think it's sorry. I think just adding on to that, I think, sorry, there was a glitch. So I'm only now getting what you were saying. As you pointed out, it's very much as part of the inspiration, but not necessarily the destination or the experience itself. We mustn't also forget, people really enjoy taking pictures and posting them on Instagram, and then, remembering and recalling those and sharing their experiences with other people so that they can get comments and inspire others. It's quite challenging to do that with virtual experiences. I mean, I'm not going to be taking a selfie with my computer right behind me, right? It just doesn't look good, and I'm not going to be getting the same feedback from my community if I'm a travel influencer, for example. It just feels weird. So yeah, just wanted to add my extra 2 pennies worth of thought on that.
Well, I totally agree. And I just got distracted by the chat. We've got a couple of questions here. So I love the comment from Serge, who says that he doesn't believe that virtual excursions can replace regular ones. And today it's the only alternative. Yes. So, I mean, it's fair to say that it's probably one not the worst opportunity to still travel somehow. But yes, I also don't think that it will last and remain such a big thing in the society for a long time. But we'll see. And we've got another question from Misha Ivanov. Is there an option to resell the Tickitto bot ticket to other Tickitto users instead of the refund? I really like this option in the Resident Advisor app. So let's say you need to, you cannot visit the place or the concert that you've bought the ticket already. And can you resell it to another Tickitto user?
So I think this is a very interesting question, and I have to answer it with caution because it differs in different markets. There are strict rules about resale tickets and strict rules about black market tickets, especially again when we talk about the concerts, the theater, the football matches. So in some instances, there is potential to resell those tickets. In other instances, it really depends on the kind of regulations and the rules that are put by that specific country and by the specific event organizer, rights holder, or let's say club owner, because they want to ensure that tickets are sold at a fair price. They're not fake tickets. Right. So I think it's a very interesting question, but it really depends on the type of activity and the type of ticket and the supplier we're working with.
Totally agree. Okay, so before I start asking my final set of questions, which are all devoted to trends and expectations, I just want to draw the attention to our chat. We've got the link from Елизавета Rudych, and I hope that she's going to add another 2 links to SEO guide and coronavirus COVID guide, because we discussed so many things on how to sort of stay afloat in travel right now. If you produce travel content, if you promote travel offers or travel services. And we've created actually 2 wonderful guides. They are free. So if someone from the Travelpayouts team posts that in the comments, post these 2 guides on SEO and on COVID-19, I'd be really happy. Okay, so my last set of questions is all about trends. We've already discussed and sort of agreed that domestic is going to grow first. But what do you think about the future of experiences after the COVID? Maybe some other trends, maybe some other travel behavior will come in place, and we'll see some really serious like deviations from what was before the pandemic. And another like more specific question is that, do you probably have any predictions or statistics as of the previous year regarding destinations, types of activities, or even certain experiences that are usually the most popular?
Of course. So it's a very interesting question, and also an opportunity for us to kind of just recap on all the themes that we discussed briefly over the other questions. So in terms of experiences specifically, obviously we're going to be seeing demand for experiences in the in this case the traveler's domestic market. But more specifically, we're going to be seeing a push for outdoor activities and adventure-related activities. People have been locked down for a really long period. They have a lot of energy, and they just kind of are craving that adrenaline buzz from doing something. And so activities such as, potentially kayaking, zip lining, similar to that matter, maybe, boat rides, everything that's outdoorsy, everything that's adventurous is something that we're going to be seeing a massive uptick in, especially because we're coming close to the summer period. And also, just observing EU regulations, at least from where we are at the moment, it seems that these types of activities and these types of venues are facing easier lockdown measures compared to the theater, compared to other types of experiences. Later on, obviously, and as we're seeing in parts of Germany and Italy, museums and exhibitions will start to open up. However, there will be kind of limited capacity on that matter, and so I would expect to see kind of specific restrictions from suppliers that Travelpayouts works with at the moment, and other influencers who kind of connect with those suppliers in terms of the volume they can sell, or the amount of distribution will go down massively for those types of events. What we are going to also be seeing is, obviously, as I mentioned, the online penetration of the tours and activities sector. And so there will be, of course, a rise for that because people will no longer want to queue and buy the ticket, and they will no longer want to actually hold the paper ticket. We're seeing in every part of the world, governments encouraging people not to use cash and not to pay with cash. And It's all about paying with card, which means everything is going to be digital tickets and voucher tickets to avoid that potential exchange of paper, and then obviously the unwanted transmission of the C word. More so, of course, people will be buying more insurance because they would want to guarantee that they can cancel and get a refund. And so I think it's very important to look at upselling insurance for those events and activities in order to, it's a great way to earn an additional revenue stream from selling insurance on its own, but also a way to instill confidence in the actual traveler that, worst comes to worst, you're insured and you can claim back your ticket. What we're also seeing massively as well in this space is the demand for free cancellation and last minute cancellation. And so I think, we're seeing already a lot of travel retailers, online travel agents offering 24-hour cancellation. And we're going to be assuming that this will become the new normal in this space, because I personally, for one, would love to see this feature kind of becoming standard across all different travel retail platforms, and have had a personal bad experience when booking a holiday just before the pandemic broke down, and I was unable to kind of cancel or claim my money back. So I think genuinely there will be a need for more flexibility and more compassion to the consumer and consumer spending.
Well, that sounds great. Yeah, they're interesting too. All right, I think that we can go back to the chat again. I see a couple of other questions here. I like this one specifically. Is Tickitto going to be on one of the programs on Travelpayouts? Well, we can discuss it later. I think I'm going to, if you guys really want it, we need to involve our business development team and discuss it. And well, hopefully it can work. And another question is, well, I see several questions about how to promote Tickitto, how do you pay commissions? And I think that yeah, we can reach you out personally. And if Dana or her marketing team would like to personally connect, feel free and leave any links to your material and descriptions. And how do we sell travel insurance? How do we sell travel insurance for activities and tickets? Is it a separate option or is it included in the package when you buy a ticket on Tickitto?
So that's the interesting bit about what we're doing as well. So it's kind of included as well in what we're doing in a way that we don't necessarily push the consumer to buy it, as in, it's 20 euros for the ticket and then €1 for the insurance as a mandatory kind of integrated package. Instead, what we do is, it's the ticket separately and then the ability to add on an insurance product. So the way we're building our technology is by making as well insurance for events and activities more accessible, because we think that given COVID-19, these go hand in hand. So that's very important. It's a very important question. And so thank you for picking it up. I should have mentioned it earlier, but obviously comes at the right time.
Okay, awesome. So do we have any more questions here? We have already exceeded the expected time limit for today, but the discussion is so interesting, I just don't want to stop it. Okay, I think that it's time to wrap it up. And that's been very interesting, really.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to join the community.
Well, thank you so much, Dana. It's awesome to have you here. And once again, today we talked to Dana Lattouf, the founder of the company called Tickitto. And if you guys still have any questions, leave them in the chat. We can, in the comments, we can go back to them after this live session. And I would like to remind you, everyone, we are meeting here every Thursday at 5 p.m. GMT. So don't miss our next weekly travel update and stay safe, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you, Dana.
Absolute pleasure. Stay safe, guys. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.